Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio. And now, here's our host, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni.
Welcome, dear listener, to Kardec Radio. We are here live from Chantilly, Virginia, the very headquarters of Kardec Radio. And this program today is very special because it's going to talk about charity towards criminals, a topic that is quite controversial for many people. And we invite you to go through this journey with us because we have a very special guest that is going to enlighten our mind and our hearts with lots of great data and tips for us on how to do so. Brandon Cosby, who is the Director of Development at OAR of Fairfax County in Virginia. He is at an organization that has a website, www.oarfairfax.org. He's going to be here with us live, so you have the opportunity to ask your questions to us directly here by calling us at 858-769-4705. Remember, it is a toll-free number here at Kardec Radio, or you can also email to us at kardec@kardecradio.com, or go to the chat room of Kardec Radio at blogtalkradio.com/Kardec Radio, and we'll be happy to hear from you. This is a most important topic because it talks about how we can reach out to those who have fallen. And a big discussion, we know, and that's why it's very enjoying, because we are going to illuminate our minds and probably build a better society by doing so. Before we give a greater introduction regarding this topic, we'd like to share with you a couple things. In November 9th to the 10th of this year, the British Union of Spiritist Societies is organizing the 4th British Congress on Medicine and Spirituality. They have great speakers from all over the world, physicians, doctors from different walks in healthcare, who are going to be there giving their presentations about how to bridge medicine and spirituality, something that really will make a difference in our health care. We've been there before and on the 3rd British Congress, and we tell you, it's fascinating. If you want more information, please go to www.buss.org.uk. Again, buss.org.uk. bus.org.uk. They have a fascinating program. You need to register to get there, and we will encourage you to really do so. Also, the Canadian Spiritist Council is organizing beautiful events this coming September. On September the 3rd, actually September 13th, they are bringing the physician, a homeopathic physician and also a spiritist speaker, Dr. Andrew Moreira from Brazil, who is an expert in the field of spirituality and medicine, and he's going to give a talk on homosexuality from a spiritual perspective. Something quite interesting. We should share something that can be very consoling and bring new hope to many hearts. On the following day, on September the 14th, he's going to give a talk about self-love, the healing pathway. And then, of course, Dr. Andrew Moreira is coming to the United States. He's going to stop by at several different states, and including here in Chantilly, Virginia. He's going to be here with us at the Spiritist Society of Virginia on September the 17th. If you want more information, because ours is free admission, you can go to www.ssvirginia.org and get to know information about him, about the location, about how to get here. And on the following day, he's going to be at the Spiritist Society of Baltimore in Maryland on September the 18th. If you want more information, please go to ssbaltimore.org and get to know more about it. There is another event in Texas happening, but we'll tell you more about this after our first break to let you know more details about another beautiful event that is being organized in Texas this year. Dear listener, we're talking today, dedicating the whole program to a topic that is very important to deal with, to discuss, which is charity towards criminals. Kardec himself, in the Spirit's Book in 1857, he asked the following question, 761. If the law of preservation gives us the right to defend our own life, don't we have the right to eliminate dangerous members from our society? And the illuminated minds of the beyond replied in this way, there are other means of saving yourselves from danger other than without killing. Moreover, it's necessary to open the door of repentance to the criminal rather than to close it. Here we kickstart the rationale of the program today. We're talking about children of God, people who were created by God and they have fallen, and we are going to dedicate the whole program to understanding how we can open this door of repentance to them, to help us in more practical ways to get there. We have here with us Brandon Cosby, who is the Director of Development at OAR of Fairfax County, and the organization has a website, www.oarfairfax.org. The Spirit Society of Virginia has been collaborating in some way and form with the organization, but they have so many beautiful programs that we think we should share with you. And also, even if you are in other parts of the world, it's a good idea for you personally or for your organization to really think about reaching out at this level for society. You may be asking why. You may be asking, why should we help people who created problems in our society? Well, these questions and many others will be answered by the expert in the field, Brandon Cosby, because he has statistics about what is happening at that end, what happens if we don't reach out, and how we are really dependent on that. And to really kickstart with the tone of service, we are going to, before opening the line to Brandon Cosby, we're going to play for you a beautiful message about service that was brought in by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, and you can find it in the beautiful CD and book, Enlightening Messages. You can find it at the Spiritual Society of Baltimore's website, www.ssbaltimore.org, and have your own copy and listen to it and enlighten your lives. The show today is all about service, and that's kickstart after the break. Brandon Cosby from OAR of Fairfax County is going to be here with us, telling us more about how to reach out to those who have fallen in our society.
Prayer of service. Lord, teach us to walk the enlightening path of service. Give us the strength to destroy the heavy fortress of our wrongdoings, the courage to pave the way to freedom from ourselves, and the means to unlock our hearts in favor of our neighbors, surrendering to them at last the treasures of love with which you entrusted us. Wherever we walk, may pain become less hurtful, ignorance less aggressive, hatred less cruel, darkness less dense, lethargy less shadowing, intolerance less destructive. If we do not yet possess the positive qualities to enrich our terrestrial journey, help us to mitigate the injustices that surround us. may we in your name distribute fraternity and renewal, and use with happiness the sublime and invisible gifts of silence, comprehension, and renunciation. Lord, who taught us without words the supreme lessons of simplicity in the cradle and of sacrifice in the cross, leading us toward spiritual development and divine resurrection. Guide our uncertain walk and help our sanctified propositions, so that your will, merciful and just, be unto us, with us, and for us, today and forever, wherever we may be. So be it.
We will return to our program after these messages.
New release, Liberation. In this compelling narrative, Andre Luiz emphasizes the work of high-order spirits in the effort to convert the spirit Gregorio to the good, an effort that culminates with the unforgettable re-encounter with his mother, herself a highly evolved spirit, wherein he surrenders to the irresistible call of love. The book also contains information on how unhappy spirits act as they try to involve incarnates in their wiles. The spirit author tells of the intercession of high-order spirits on behalf of human beings, demonstrating the divine compassion that grants to all the blessed opportunity to free themselves by means of study, labor, and persevering service in the practice of the good. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Want spirituous books for your children? At Edicei of America, you will find a collection of them. From the best-selling book, Our Father, in which the spirit Mei through Chico Xavier brought countless poems, stories, and folk tales based on the Lord's Prayer, to the beautiful and educational collection by the author Adelson Sales on Back to School and many others. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
If you missed out on previous shows, no worries. We have an on-demand sections of all previous shows and interviews. Go to our website, www.kardecradio.com.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
Spiritism for Everyone, the online study of Spiritism. This year with the in-depth study of the book Genesis by Allan Kardec. Join us every Wednesday evening through the web from any computer or mobile device, no matter where you are in the U.S. or the world. Spiritism for Everyone is free, open to all, and requires no registration. For more information, go to www.spiritus.us. Spiritism for Everyone is a program of the United States Spiritist Council.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, we are here today dedicating the whole program to understanding how we can reach out to those who have fallen in our society. We name them criminals, though I know it's very strong, but for some people it may be very hard. As Allan Kardec addressed this question in the Spirit's book, Question and Answer 761, he got to know that we need to have an open door of repentance to those who have fallen. And that's the reason why we're also here at Kardec Radio, bringing to you information on how to do so. But, we need experts in the field, and that's why we have invited And thank God he agreed to be here with us. Brendan Cosby, the Director of Development at OAR of Fairfax County in Virginia. Their website is oarfairfax.org. It's a fascinating work that they do. The Spiritist Society of Virginia has been collaborating at a minor level, but still we are learning much more ways in which we can collaborate with them. And it's one of the few organizations throughout the United States. So here we have Brendan Cosby with us. Thank you so much, Brendan, for being with us at Kardec Radio today.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, I know you are doing a phenomenal work there at OAR together with Dana and the whole team, and it's such a difficult task. Can you tell us, please, Brendan, what is specifically the OAR and its mission?
Certainly. What OAR is a nonprofit organization, and our role is really to assist those individuals who find themselves in contact with the criminal justice system. It's a tricky system, and it's one that at times can kind of chew people up and spit them out. And our role is to make sure as people find themselves in contact with that system that they can successfully reintegrate back into the community once they have met the requirements of the criminal justice system. Our mission is very specific. It is to rebuild lives and to break the cycle of crime by providing opportunities, alternatives, and resources for offenders and their families. And the goal is to create a safer community.
But you know, Brendan, many people, they think that, well, they're criminals. Why should we help them? And I mean, do they deserve this help? What would you tell to these people?
It's interesting because many people have that attitude. We have all heard the expression to lock them up and throw away the key. One of the important things to keep in mind is that 95% of those individuals who are incarcerated will return to our community. Mm-hmm. Whether we want to support them or not, whether we believe they deserve support or not, whatever our personal beliefs are, they will return to our community. Today's prisoner is tomorrow's neighbor. They will rejoin us, and at that point, they have a choice. Are they going to continue criminal behavior, or are they going to reintegrate into a community and become self-sufficient, adhere within the boundaries that we've set as a community? With support, that's possible. Many individuals who leave incarceration can be successful as they return to our community. Without support, it is incredibly difficult. And without that support, they're very likely to return to criminal behavior.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying 95% of them go back to our society. They come back.
That's correct. Very few people receive a life sentence. Very few people wind up dying while incarcerated. Mm-hmm. The vast majority of individuals incarcerated return to our community. It might be 6 months, it might be 6 years, but they're going to come back to our community, and as a community, we have an obligation to make sure that once they have met the requirements of the criminal justice system, that they have an opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's not about necessarily being soft on crime, and I think that's what causes a lot of people to be a little bit concerned about reaching out to this population. Mm-hmm. It's holding them accountable. It's about making sure that they're responsible for their choices and actions, but it's about making sure that they have the opportunity to do something productive upon release. And that's where the OAR organization comes in to help them in that journey.
And I remember when you came to the Spiritist Society of Virginia, you gave a presentation telling us a little bit about the history of OAR. It started in Richmond. Is that right?
That is correct. Our particular organization grew out of a truly chaotic time in the Richmond prisons. There were riots, there were revolts, there was violence. This was back in the 70s, and the system was broken. And a handful of individuals from the community, from the local faith community in Richmond, came together and said, what can we do? What can we do to address this concern? And they initiated this effort by going into the facilities, the detention facilities, the prisons, as community members, not professionals, not specialists, not experts, as members of the community, going in, acknowledging that those that are incarcerated are a part of our community, and building a relationship with them, and giving them an opportunity and hope that there's something they can do once they're released, that it is worth looking forward to and doing something productive. Mm-hmm. That idea is what kind of gave birth to our organization, OAR. And since that time, many OAR organizations have come together to address individual communities around the state and around other parts of the country.
That's very interesting. So when we talk about numbers, facts regarding incarceration in the U.S., what can you tell us? What's happening within the United States alone regarding incarceration?
It is truly profound. As a nation, we rely on incarceration. That is the tool that we use. In the aftermath of criminal behavior, the tool we use is incarceration. It has not proven effective. It's quite to the contrary. It is a very ineffective tool at changing people's behavior. But we use it in profound ways. The United States has about 5% of the world's population, but we have nearly 25% of the world's prisoners. We incarcerate nearly 800 people per 100,000. That leads the world by far. That leads every other country in the world. It is, for one reason or another, it is the tool we rely on as a country in an attempt to change behavior.
It's almost like a behavioral perspective of punishment. I teach about this every year to my students in the University of Maryland, and we believe so much in behavioral sciences that we use the tools, and it seems like punishing has become probably a belief that it works, but as you said, there's much more than that. It doesn't work by itself alone.
By itself alone. There are times where punishment may be appropriate, but you're right. By itself, it doesn't change behavior. And there are some individuals that are inherently so dangerous that incarceration may be the best tool to keep the rest of us safe. But at the rates that we incarcerate, it's clear that we are not just incarcerating those that we're afraid of. We're incarcerating those, to quote others in the field, that we are mad at. And just being mad at someone, incarcerating them, doesn't change their behavior. It reinforces the criminogenic beliefs, the attitudes, the behaviors that lead to crime, and they're more likely to continue criminal behavior upon release than to change if incarceration is the only tool that we use.
And statistics-wise, I remember you mentioned about the United States holding like 25% of the prisons of the world. Is that correct? Did we understand that right?
That's correct. We hold 5% of the world's prisoners.
But why does this happen? Why do you think a quarter of them are here? Because of the efficacy of the system?
I believe that as a people, as a community, we believe in punishment as a tool. We use it in a variety of manners. We use it as parents to try to change behavior. We use it in the workplace. And when somebody has a transgression, we write them up, we put something in the personnel file. We use punishment as a tool in our community. From the larger picture, as states and the nation look at addressing criminal behavior, I believe we use punishment because it's easy. And what I mean by that is that it's relatively easy to incarcerate somebody compared to holding that person accountable, making sure that person takes responsibility for their actions, giving them opportunities to change while holding them accountable. That takes time. It takes an investment from the community, and incarceration is just easier to just implement quickly and easily and then walk away from. Our system of incarceration is really based on two questions. Let's imagine for a moment that a crime occurs in your parking lot this afternoon. Somebody walks in, their car gets robbed. Somebody comes up to them, pushes them down, takes their wallet, and runs off. Our current system of justice asks two questions. Who did it, and how do we punish them?
Mm-hmm.
That's all we ask. So we find the person, we put them in jail, and then we kind of shake our hands from it and walk away from it.
Mm.
If we really want to look to change, what we've got to ask is, what's the impact, and how do we make it better? How do we repair it? How do we stop this from happening in the future?
Mm-hmm.
What led the person to criminal behavior? And asking those questions takes an investment of effort and time and resources that is much more significant than simply incarcerating someone.
So when you talk about the impact, what is the impact of the incarceration in families?
Oh, the impact on families is profound. As an organization, we look at family members as the forgotten victims of crime. We think of the direct victims and recognize that they suffer as a result of a choice that the offender makes, but we forget that families suffer as a result of the choices that offenders make. Families are left behind to kind of pick up the pieces. So if someone commits a transgression, is found guilty, and is then incarcerated, maybe that person was the primary contributor economically to that family or to that household. So what's left for those left behind, whether it's mom and the children or mom and dad or whoever else is a part of that family unit, they're left to figure out, what do we do now? How do we survive in the absence of this person, given the choices that he's made and the consequences he or she has experienced?
Wow. So we are going to give a short break, Brandon, but when we come back, we'd like to understand a little bit more about the possibility of, what is this cycle of crime and how OAR is really reaching out to put a stop at it, okay?
Wonderful. I look forward to that discussion.
All right.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Getting to the Light. Spiritist Therapy for Discarnate Spirits is a small book that offers guidance to Spiritist practitioners and Spiritist counselors. Purchase your copy at www.ssbaltimore.org.
Nourish Your Soul with Kardec Radio.
If you missed out on a previous shows, no worries. We have an on-demand section of all previous shows and interviews. Go to our website at www.kardecradio.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Help prevent suicide by reading and sharing these books with others. 2 great books are available to help in this Kardec Radio campaign to prevent suicide. Suicide, All You Need to Know, by the international Spiritist speaker Richard Simonetti. You can buy your copy at www.roundtablepublishing-uk.com. Also, Memoirs of a Suicide by the medium Yvonne Pereira. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Kardec Radio, live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Kardec Radio now offers more programs during the week and weekends. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can follow the beautiful program God at Home with Francisca Kranz and the British Spiritist community. They will brighten your days by doing a God at Home meeting wherever you are in the world, while teaching you how to do the same in your own home with your family and friends. Every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will hear incredibly inspirational Spiritist talks directly broadcasted by Spiritist Network. There will be true educational moments to carry out to immortality. Every Saturday, live interviews, Bridging Health and Spiritism with the host Dr. Vanessa Anceloni. You may ask questions to the interviewed guests by calling 858-769-5652 4705. And every Sunday, tune in the Spiritist Awareness at Kardec Radio. You will hear a series of segments on a diversity of Spiritist topics. Kardec will broadcast the Spiritist Moment with Kirsten DeMello, the reading of the Spiritist book by John DeRosa and Steve Shepard, Spiritism in Your Life with Drs. Marco and Joyce Magalhães, Spiritism and the Gospel with Luis Sergio Marotta, Spiritist Education for Youth and Children with Bernadette Leal, Spiritist Music with James Marotta, Neuroscience and Spiritism with Dr. Vanessa Anceloni, and many more segments coming soon. Enjoy it all and nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, we are here talking about charity towards criminals, and we are interviewing Brandon Cosby, who is the Director of Development at OAR of Fairfax County in Virginia. A beautiful work that is quite unique. There are a few of these organizations around the United States, and it's really modeling. Before we go back to the interview, I can't forget to mention to you that this coming October the 19th, in Houston, Texas, the Texas Spiritist Movement is organizing the third Texas Spiritist Symposium, which is a whole-day event from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You need to register for it, and if you want more information, they are at txspiritistsymposium.org. They're going to hold a whole event with 4 great speakers at the Hilton Inn in Houston, Texas. Don't miss this opportunity because they are quite unique, quite uplifting. Right now, we're back to the topic. As we talked, Allan Kardec asked the illuminated minds about what to do with those dangerous people in our society. So killing is a no-no, but what else do we do? The beauty of their answer in question 761 of the Spirit's book is we should open a door for repentance. So we're talking about education. Right before the break, Brandon Cosby was telling us about the need to go beyond just punishment. Punishment doesn't resolve it. So, Brandon, can we tell there is a cycle of crime?
There certainly is a cycle of crime that can be generational in its impact. I often link the cycle of crime to the analogy of the slow, inevitable regularity of the tide on the beach. With each wave, it pulls a little bit of the sand back with it. And that is what incarceration and crime does in people's lives. When someone is incarcerated, they lose possessions, they lose relationships, they lose employment, they lose housing. When they're released from incarceration, they're released very isolated, very lonely, and without resources. So the likelihood of criminal behavior increases greatly at the time of release compared to the original point of incarceration. Once somebody is in that position, they start looking to make choices, and they see their choices are limited, and they likely return right back to the type of behavior that led them to incarceration to begin with. This cycle perpetuates, and then those that grow up in this system, the children of incarcerated parents, see it, accept it. It just becomes almost a part of the norm, and the children of those incarcerated are much more likely to be learning criminogenic beliefs, repeating some of that behavior, and then become incarcerated themselves. So the cycle is profound in its impact on families and on communities.
So, Brandon, I remember you giving us some numbers, like more than 65% of offenders in the U.S. will sometime go back. Within 3 years, they will be incarcerated again. So you're telling us that educational programs, opportunities given by OAR will certainly put a stop or change this number, right?
Absolutely. Without doing anything at all, just like you said, within 3 years, nearly 60-65% of people incarcerated go right back into incarceration. With support, that can change. And I want to give an example of this. Imagine being released from incarceration in the circumstances that I described just a moment ago. You don't know where your next meal is going to come from. You don't have a housing situation set up. Your family has abandoned you. Your community has stepped away from you, and you're lonely and you're isolated. But imagine an organization like OAR pairs you up with a mentor, a member from our community that meets with you once a week in the community at a library or a coffee shop and works with you on the challenges that you face and supports you and encourages you and gives you the message that says you can do this and you have to do this. Those around you that are important to you depend on you being successful. What's important for you, for your family, and your community, and let's work on that together. And a mentor in those circumstances can be incredibly powerful for that person that's struggling, wants to give up, and looking back towards criminal behavior. And every week they sit down with a mentor to move them a different direction. That's just one example of the types of services that we offer, but you can begin to see with just that positive force in their lives how different it can be in terms of breaking that cycle of crime and having that person make productive, responsible choices.
But Brandon, when the reality you're telling us, because probably many people don't know that actually not only the U.S. but around the world, once you are incarcerated, when you leave prison or jail, they are gonna give you the very same clothes when you got in, and is that correct?
It often is. Especially in a local jail, if you're incarcerated, whatever you came in with is what you go out with. If you're in a longer-term prison, they will sometimes have resources that can help to put some things together to prepare you for your release, but that varies greatly from prison to prison, community to community, state to state, or country to country. And in many cases, just as you described, there's no opportunity to prepare for that release, and they walk out basically how they walked in.
Wow.
So
if they gained weight, they don't have clothes to come out.
That's true. And prison is a sedimentary lifestyle, so it is very likely that their body has changed over time.
And you're talking about, they rely upon a society structure, maybe family structure, to really bring them in, and often they may not have those accommodations. We're talking about shelter, we're talking about food, and mostly about reintegrating them in society, like job-wise. I think this is probably one of the hardest things for them to get back, because who actually is going to give them a job? People do background checks, and who is actually going to be willing to do so? So it's very, very hard, right?
Especially in an economy as we have today, where people with professional degrees and tremendous work experience are trying to have difficulty or having difficulty finding employment. So for that ex-offender, that is a real challenge. The hiring manager has many people to choose from. Why do they choose the ex-offender? So one of the things we do as an organization is we talk to those hiring managers. We talk to them about some of the potential benefits or why it may be of value to them to consider this individual. And then that way, when we send a referral to somebody and say, go talk to John at the hardware store, he's willing to give you a shot. And then they can look at one another, shake hands, and say, let's give this a try. And what the employers that we work with find is that those that they hire that have a blemish on their background, that have a conviction on their background, they find that those are some of the most loyal employees that they have, because the ex-offender realizes, this is the person that gave me a shot. I'm going to be loyal to that. I'm going to demonstrate to him that or her that they made the right choice on me. And they, more often than not, have a wonderful experience with that ex-offender because of the uniqueness and personal relationship that develops.
That's interesting. But before we get to the services of OAR, there's a question we need to ask you. It's about are there similar organizations that you know of around the U.S. and in the world that people can research about, programs that are similar, or is it something that is more unique to us here?
It is unique, but there are some similar organizations. So in Virginia, there are a handful of OAR organizations. There's one in Charlottesville, in Richmond, in Arlington, and those are all in addition to ours. There's a handful of other OARs. There's one in New York and a few others along the East Coast. As we broaden out nationally, there are a couple other organizations that do similar things. There's a couple in New York and Chicago. There's a wonderful one in San Francisco that was really built by a group of ex-offenders. This is called the Delancey Street Program. For those interested in this topic, that's a great program to look up. So there are a handful out there that have sprung up and have been very successful. But for the most part, many communities don't have services specifically for ex-offenders. And when an offender seeks social services through the traditional means, they're often not provided with opportunities because of their criminal backgrounds. So when they try to get housing assistance, when they are attempting to get other types of services through the traditional means that others in our community who are struggling seek, the offender is denied services. So they often struggle to get that support.
Then the cycle of crime perpetuates itself for sure, because what else you're going to do, right? So it's almost like you have no other option. So what are the services and programs? I know you have so many beautiful programs, but we have time. Please lead us into the wide variety of programs and services that OARF of Fairfax County offers, please.
Certainly. And I'll just be able to kind of scratch the surface on what we do. So I want to encourage listeners to go to our website at oarfairfax.org and learn more about our programs. But it's important to recognize that we provide services at all levels of the criminal justice system. So potentially there may be someone, in order to break this cycle of crime, who shows up before the court on a first-time misdemeanor charge. Maybe it's a 20-year-old college student who made a bad decision and was arrested for theft. They were shoplifting. We can go the traditional method of convictions and incarceration and fines, or we can provide an opportunity, and this is what OAR does in our relationship with the local courts, is to divert that person from the court and from incarceration into community service. Then they can offer something productive back to the community through their service instead of taking resources from the community through incarceration. So we coordinate alternative sentencing programs like that with the court, place people in community service, evaluate their service, perform record checks for the court so that we can demonstrate to the court that the individual has been accountable. They did their community service. They did not pick up any additional charges. Then they go back before the court and they have their case dismissed. And it's a great opportunity for someone who's just starting to get close to that cycle of violence to recognize where they're at and give an opportunity to move away from it quickly so they don't get caught up in that process. If or when someone is incarcerated, we offer a wealth of programs and services inside our local detention center to try to build skills and prepare people for their release. I would love to talk about one in particular. Do we have time to talk about the Impact of Crime program?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. This program is one that is really built on the concept of restorative justice. It brings together victims, the offender, and the community in the classroom inside the detention center.
Wow.
And what we try to do is demonstrate in real terms to those that are incarcerated how their actions have impacted others. If they can see and feel and understand how their actions harm individuals and the community, they're much more likely to change their behavior. It's a whole lot easier to be incarcerated, get behind those big block steel doors and block walls and just think about yourself and never think about others. So we try to open up their vision some and get them to understand in real terms how criminal behavior hurts others. And we bring speakers into the jail who have been victims of crime. We bring in people who have lost loved ones to drunk driving. We bring people who have suffered through abusive relationships, who were abused as children, who had their property stolen or their home burglarized. And we bring in those communities, those individuals from our community into the jail to share their story. And it is profound in its influence on the behavior of those that are incarcerated.
But I would like to ask you a question, which is, for those who are skeptical in some way, informed, I think there is probably a number you can give to us regarding. Some people only believe when you talk money, like the cost of incarceration.
Let's look just locally for a moment, because I can share those numbers better than other places. In Fairfax County, it cost $147 a day to house one inmate. That's $54,000 to hold that person for 1 year. That is a profound amount of money that we spend in almost a wasted effort just to house somebody, and that person likely moves closer to increase in additional criminal behavior, and we spend $54,000 to do that. At OAR, our per-client cost is about $500. We are volunteer-driven. We rely on the community at the spirit of who we are. The community drives the work that we do, and many of the volunteers are teaching classes in the jail and mentoring and running our front desk and working with family members. And our cost per client, as I said, is less than $500. That's a pretty reasonable investment from our community if we can take an individual, pull them out of that cycle of violence, lead them to a place where they are self-sufficient, accountable for their own behavior, and contributing members of our community. Certainly a much better investment than the cost of incarceration.
Oh, yes, that's for sure. So just for those who are listening to your programs and services, so they rest assured that this is much less of a cost than keeping them incarcerated and coming back within 3 years and keeping that cycle, which is also much more expensive. I know this is not the only reason. As you said, the impact on families is great. And I remember visiting prisons and jails, and I remember seeing the families coming with little kids, babies, visiting the incarcerated people. And it's heartbreaking because they are learning from the beginning that this is just like, okay, that's natural in our family. So who knows? We're perpetuating from generation to generation as well, right?
We do, and it is heartbreaking to see, but it is also critically important to the success of that offender if we can maintain those family bonds. Those family bonds are so important to ensuring that they still have a connection to the community and resources upon their release. And the more those family bonds break down, the greater strength that cycle of crime is.
Mm-hmm. And amongst the you have volunteering programs for those who want to join in. Can you just give us an overview about the possibilities of joining in and volunteering at organizations such as OAR of Fairfax County?
Absolutely. We do have a whole wealth of volunteer opportunities. We rely on the community and our volunteers. So I would encourage anybody who's interested in this topic to contact us. There's a whole list of opportunities on our webpage. You can teach classes. If you want to run a life skills class or a computer class, you can mentor. You can work with families. You can do work behind the scenes. Right now we have volunteers that are packing backpacks with back-to-school supplies so we can give to the children of those incarcerated. So there's a whole wealth of opportunities for ways that volunteers can become engaged. If this topic is of great interest to you and you're passionate about it and you want to help shape our community's response to crime, we'd love to have you as a member of our board. We'd love to have you on one of our board committees. So whether you want to get right in the middle of it and put your hands in it and directly work with someone one-on-one or shape our community's response, those opportunities exist as well. So I really encourage the community to just check our website, reach out to us, and we can give a whole lot more information on what's available and how we get started. We need the community's involvement and welcome them with open arms.
But since we have listeners around the world, Brandon, I know it's hard to ask you, to give us like a full perspective about what's happening elsewhere and similar organizations. But how, from your website, they can get in touch with similar organizations in other states in the United States, or get to know information in other countries as well, so they can volunteer, reach out, and help as well?
If someone contacts us, we might be able to supply them with some of the contact information and resources to get that started. Mm-hmm. But generally, I would recommend through your faith communities, through your civic groups, reach out to the local jails. If you're in a community where prisons are located, reach out to those prisons. Many are willing to allow the community in. There's a direct benefit to the staff and the administration that runs those facilities if the individuals housed there can be focused on positive tasks, because that keeps them diverted from negative things that they might otherwise be involved with while incarcerated. So many facilities will welcome the community in. If that's not happening in your community, reach out as a community, through your faith groups, through your civic organizations. Let them know that you would like to be able to implement programs for the offenders to prepare them for their release, to build skills so they're more capable of finding employment when they walk out the doors. And in our experience, most places of incarceration, most detention facilities are welcoming of the community's involvement in that way.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. And I know for those who are locally, there is a Volunteer Community Day coming up. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? So
yes.
We can invite the listener who is in the area, Washington, Virginia, Maryland area, so they can participate as well?
Absolutely. It's our Volunteer Community Day on September 28th. It's an upcoming Saturday from about 10 to 1. It's at a local park, Jefferson District Park. We're going to have a wonderful display of lunch and food for everyone to partake in. I think our volunteer coordinator is coordinating a putt-putt tournament just for fun and some prizes to give out. But the real purpose of that event is to bring the community together, let them ask some questions about who we are and what we do, interact with other volunteers that do this work, ask questions of our staff. So the community has an open invitation to participate in that. Bring your neighbors, bring your colleagues, bring those that are interested in learning more, and we would be happy to see you there. Many more details on our website, www.oarfairfax.org. There's an opportunity to register there, but by all means, if you're looking at it and you have just specific questions, please reach out to us and we'll try to answer those. But would love to have the community join us on that day to learn more about this work that we do.
We have a listener here who sent us a question regarding if you have numbers showing that these programs offered by OAR are effective. Do you have numbers or cases you could share with us in which you can tell like how it's going to prevent or breaking the cycle of crime?
We do. These are, for your listeners' benefit, these are incredibly difficult numbers to obtain. It requires longitudinal tracking of an ex-offender because we need to know 5 years later, 10 years later, what's their status. This is a very transient population that moves around a lot, and they're very difficult to track. So we have, for example, a particular program called our Vassivore program. It's for serious and violent offenders, and this is a population that we saturate support for these individuals to make sure that they don't reoffend, because their reoffense could be catastrophic to members of our community. And we have less than a 4% recidivism rate for those individuals. We track them over a duration of years because they'll participate in that program for a significant period of time. Many clients that come to our office that seek employment services, those individuals we will refer to employment and then follow them for up to 12 months in order to demonstrate, have they been reincarcerated, did they maintain their employment, what is their status. And for those that we are able to track, we get good numbers demonstrating that the vast majority of them do maintain their employment and are not reincarcerated. The challenge is we can only track about 30% of those that we serve because we lose touch and we don't have the resources to do that. Our hope is to partner with a university that can obtain potential grant money that will allow us to track individuals in a professional way for an extended period of time. So we get snapshots of the value, but it is a very difficult number to obtain.
That is right. That is right. We agree as a scientist, it's not easy to compute those numbers. It takes time. It takes a lot of discipline and people who are committed to doing so. But this is beyond what you're offering. And we understand that, as you say, the main thing to remember, I remember from a slide you had at a presentation here at the center in Virginia, Today's prisoner is tomorrow's neighbor. As a community, we have the responsibility to help them re-enter society. So it's fascinating, the whole thing. Brandon, what would you say to the listener who is out there right now, maybe has a family member or a neighbor or somebody in their lives who is incarcerated, and how they can probably more personally reach out to them?
The most important thing is to accept the person for who they are. We can demonstrate our displeasure, disregard, frustration, anger, hurt, and everything else with the behavior that they have chosen, and demonstrate to them that that behavior is not acceptable and must change. But as a person, respect them. Respect them for the opportunity to change, to demonstrate an ability to repent, change direction, and move forward. And that, as a community and as family members, is an important part of this process. We don't have to accept the behavior and choices that they made, but we do still have to accept them as a person for the value that they do have and the potential they have moving forward.
That's so beautiful and very practical too. And for that, you would say family members also need support to really go through that tough time, emotionally speaking, on how to work on that acceptance, right?
Absolutely. It's, as we mentioned earlier, family members are the forgotten victims of crime, and they struggle, and it's hard. It's one of the services we offer here is a family support group for those left behind when they have loved ones incarcerated. They have all kinds of worries. Is their loved one going to be safe? How does this criminal justice system work? Are they going to get the medication they need while they're incarcerated? You know, all of these different things that family members struggle with. And then if someone's incarcerated for a lengthy period of time and they're going to be released after 5 years, it's almost like inviting a neighbor into your home at that point. The reintegration of the family can be stressful and difficult. So families need that support. They need support from like organizations like OAR, but also from the community, from their places of worship and those around them. And as much we can do for those family members and recognize the struggle they have, and not shun them because of transgressions that others have made, which family members unfortunately often feel. The more support we can give them, the better they are to provide a productive environment for their family member when that person returns.
Wow. So, Brandon, with all the enlightenment you have given to us, many resources and tools for us to really build a better society in this work, in this line of work, what would be your final comments for the listener today at Kardec Radio, please?
If you were listening to this, it means you had some interest in this topic. Hopefully we kind of opened that up and broadened your own vision some. So look for ways to get involved. This is important work. This is work that impacts our entire community, and many of us never have to think about it or worry about it, and we ignore this issue. So if this touched a place that says, you know, we do have to do something. We can't simply use incarceration and expect things to change, for things to be better. So look for ways to get involved. If you're local here and want to participate with OAR, we welcome you with open arms and would love to have you as a part of our team. And if you're not local, look for ways that you can get involved with your local places of incarceration, your local jails, your local prisons and detention centers. If that's not possible, what can you set up post-release that can be available? If you can't be involved while people are incarcerated, what can we set up as a community to help somebody to make sure they have the opportunities necessary to be successful upon their release? And that's what I would like to share with others, to get involved, look for ways to offer support to this population in a meaningful way.
That's wonderful. So if people want to talk directly to Brandon Cosby, please go to the website at oarfairfax.org, and then you get to know more about the services they have. And if you're elsewhere in the country or in the world, please contact oarfairfax.org. They can give you contact information, tips and hints about how you can do that elsewhere as well. Something that is really imperative to build a better society, not only for us, but also for the whole world. We are very grateful to your presence here today at Kardec Radio. Brandon, thank you so much for the marvelous work you've been doing, OAR has been doing, and for being with us, sharing so many tips and hints about how we can also grow as individuals by doing such work. Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
So, dear listener, here we are. We are talking about charity towards criminals. We have more to share with you. We have more information regarding the spiritual aspects of it as well. As much as we are grateful to Brandon, we would say take action. Don't stay, just don't stop where you are listening and sharing. Share this information, but also, as he said, take action. Go to your local community. Find out about something that may be small for you, may be they have a huge impact on somebody's life. I want to recap here. Diego Neri Castro at Blog Talk Radio chat room at Kardec Radio mentioning to us, thank you, Diego, for taking your time and sharing your thoughts here. When we were talking about behavioral psychology and incarceration, you mentioned that the legal choice for incarceration is previous to any possible consideration of behavioral psychology. And that is true, we know. But, the United States believes so much. As a behavioral scientist myself, I tell you, we believe so much in behavioral science that we really reinforce the need of applying such tools, and sometimes we need to go beyond it. But thank you so much, Diego, for sharing your thoughts. And Daniel Santos, also from Baltimore, Maryland, mentioned something that he liked very much when Brandon Cosby said that we should, reinforce the need of prisoners when they're released. They have to do community service and give back to society instead of taking from it. That is very true. Thank you, Daniel, also for sharing your thoughts regarding that. There is much to be done, and that's why Kardec Radio is here, to nourish our souls and to really empower us to a better life. We're going to give a very short break, but when we come back, we have more news and information for you.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Books of Andre Luis. Through the hands of the most prolific medium of all times, Chico Xavier, the spirit doctor Andre Luis wrote a series of books that unveil the mechanisms of life and life after life. From the best-selling novel No Solar, Our Home, to And Life Goes On, the reader will find illumination for a fulfilled life on Earth as well as immortal happiness. Check the many titles available at the international distributor, EDI CEI of America. Their website is www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Spiritist Network, your gateway to on-demand Spiritist videos. www.spiritistnetwork.com.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio. Traveling to another country? Immigrating elsewhere? Prepare yourself by reading the book Among Brothers of Other Lands, in which several loving and wise spirits wrote through the hands of Chico Xavier and Waldo Vieira, telling all of us the tips and hints of a successful transition to a new land. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Want Spiritist books for your children? At Edicei of America, you'll find a collection of them, from the best-selling book Our Father, in which the Spirit Mei Mei, through Chico Xavier, brought countless poems, stories, and folk tales based on the Lord's Prayer, to the beautiful and educational collection by the author Edailson Salles on Back to School and many others. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, we just had a beautiful conversation. We learned so much from Brandon Cosby, the Director of Development of OAR of Fairfax County, Virginia. An amazing organization, and there are few, only 7 of them around the United States. There are probably similar organizations, but this organization, we've been there. The Spirit Side of Virginia has been collaborating with them, and we tell you, it's an amazing work. Their hearts are open wide to really make our society not only safer but better by reaching out to those who have fallen and give them another opportunity. And that's what they are, opportunity, resources. And we should really, really partake in this. And if you are elsewhere in the United States or the world, we would recommend that you still contact them at OARFairfax.org. Contact them as Brandon Cosby recommended, and they are going to give you an opportunity to get to know more about how you can do similar works elsewhere in this country or around the world. We want to remind you that before we get back to the topic of charity towards criminals from a spiritual perspective, that the 4th British Congress on Medicine and Spirituality is happening on November 9th and 10th in London, UK. To get more information and register for the event, go to buss.org.uk. The British Union of Spiritist Societies has information about how you can register for this event. The Canadian Spiritist Council, together with the Toronto Spiritist Society, is bringing Dr. Andrew Moreira on September 13th and the 14th in Toronto, Canada. Also on the 26th, they are bringing the renowned medium and speaker Divaldo Franco on September the 26th at the University of Toronto. To get to know more information, just go to the website of the Toronto Spiritist Society.org. On September the 17th, Dr. Moreira is going to be here in Chantilly, Virginia, at the Spirit Society of Virginia, talking about self-healing. And on the following day, he's going to be on September the 18th, which is a Thursday evening, at the Spiritist Society of Baltimore, giving also a talk, this time about healing. Very, very important. And the website is ssbaltimore.org. On October the 19th, the Texas Community of Spiritism is organizing the 3rd Texas Spiritist Symposium in Houston, Texas. You're invited to go to their website, txspiritussymposium.org, get to know more information about the program. It's a day program. It's going to happen at the Hilton Inn in Houston, Texas. And as far as we know, you only need to register to attend it. But go to their website, share the news, because these events are simply marvelous, and they are true opportunities for you to instruct yourself, illuminate your mind, know more people, make new friends, and bring friends with you so they can get to know more about the Spiritist teachings as well. Because Spiritist teachings are really at the vanguard of humanity. Tell you, when Kardec, in question 761, dear listener, ask the spirits, if the law of preservation tells us that it's okay to preserve, to self-defend our lives, isn't it okay to eliminate the dangerous members of society? He's talking about death penalty. 1857 was the year when he asked this question. The illuminated spirits answered in the following way, that there are other means of defending yourselves without killing. And in reality, we need to open a door of repentance to those who have fallen. So this is exactly the reason why Kardec Radio today is bringing to you this awareness that not only we should help those who are in need, but those who are extremely in need because they have fallen as criminals. To wrap up the program, would like to read for you a message that came towards a medium. She is named Elizabeth de France. She brought this message in 1862, and it's in chapter 11 of the Gospel According to Spiritism. Elizabeth de France says the following to us: Charity towards criminals. True charity is one of the most sublime teachings that God has given to the world. Complete fraternity ought to exist among the true disciples of His doctrine. You must love unfortunates and criminals as God's creatures, to whom forgiveness and mercy will be granted if they repent, as is the case with you for the wrongs that you commit against His law. Regard yourselves as more reprehensible and guilty than those to whom you refuse forgiveness and commiseration, because quite often they do not know God as you do, and less will be asked of them than of you. Do not judge. Do not judge, my dear friends, for the judgment you render will be more severely applied to you, and you have need of the indulgence for the mistakes you continually commit. Do you not know that there are many acts that are crimes in the eyes of God of purity, but which the world does not even regard as light offenses? True charity does not consist only in the alms you give, or even in the consoling words that might accompany them. No, this is not what God demands of you. The sublime charity taught by Jesus also consists in the benevolence always granted in all things toward your neighbor. You can even exercise the sublime virtue on many individuals who do not need alms, but who words of love, consolation, and encouragement will lead to the Lord. I will say once more that the times are near when the widespread fraternity will reign on this globe, and the law of Christ is what will govern humans, and that law alone will be the restraint and hope that will lead souls to the blessed realms. Thus, love one another as children of the same Father. Do not set up differences between you and those who are unfortunate, for God wills for everyone to be equal. Therefore, despise no one. God allows great criminals to dwell amongst you, to serve you as a lesson. Soon, when humans have been led to the true laws of God, such lessons will no longer be needed, and all impure and rebellious spirits will be relegated to lower worlds according to their inclinations. You owe to those of whom I speak the help of your prayers. That is true charity. You do not have to say of criminals, they are wretched, they must be expunged from the earth, the death that is inflicted on them is too kind for that type of individual. No, you must not speak like that. Look at your model, Jesus. What would he say if he saw such unfortunate persons next to him? He would grieve for them. He would regard them as truly needy, sick persons, and would extend his hand to them. You cannot do this in reality, but you can at least pray for them and assist their spirits in the few moments they must yet spend on your earth. Repentance may touch their hearts if you pray with faith. They are neighbors just as the best individuals are, like yours. Their wandering and rebellious souls were created to become perfect. So help them out of their mire and pray for them. Elizabeth de France. This is in chapter 11 of the Gospel According to Spiritism. Dear listener, we hope you are inspired, and we hope you share the news, because our society really needs to reach this other level of fraternity, the charity towards those who have fallen. Now we invite you for the final prayer, as we do it every Saturday in our program. Let us then raise our thoughts. Breathing in deeply and out slowly. Feeling the presence of God in our lives, sustaining us at each breath, at each thought, each feeling. Dear Father, Mother God, joy envelops us now as you are giving us new hope through this message by Elizabeth de France, by the great works at OAR shared by Brendan Cosby. We'd like to dedicate this moment of prayer so new energies, new spiritual fluids can reach out to all prisons and jails in the United States and the world. May those who govern and coordinate such services feel inspired to more educational approaches. And may our society as a whole open the door of repentance, proposing educational mechanisms to restore the minds and the spirits of those who have fallen. Because all in all, who amongst us has never fallen? If not in this life, in a previous life. Give us wisdom to never forget of those who are in greater need. May the prisoners, the incarcerated individuals all over the world and their families receive from us a shower of encouragement to a shift in their lives. May they think of you, dear Lord, and find the strength to begin again, to begin anew. And with so many blessings you grant us every day, we thank you for this opportunity you have given us today. May you bless everyone in our lives, and especially those who are in greater need. May those who help us at Kardec Radio in both realms of life receive our gratitude. May they also receive the encouragement to keep on going, helping always. And so be it. Dear listener, we have beautiful programs coming up this September and October. We are updating the website at Kardec Radio, and you'll be amazed about the program. Next week, we're going to have here a very beautiful program dedicated to getting to know more about birthing a new generation. The very founder of the amazing program Hypnobirthing, Mary Mongan, is going to be here with us telling about techniques on how to give birth in a very serene, go through a very calm pregnancy so we can change our society from the very first days of life, bringing calmness, serenity, and also lots of joy to those who are in the new path of our reincarnation. Right now, we would like to share with you that Kardec Radio is here for you. So if you have questions or comments, do not hesitate. Write to us. We are always open to listen from you. We have our website, KardecRadio.com. There's a contact form. Just go there, click, share your comments. If you have Facebook, we have a page there, Kardec Radio on Facebook. We're also open to listen from you. And if you want, we still have some Kardec Radio t-shirts we can send to you as our gratitude. For now, we wish you lots of blessings. And remember, tomorrow, Spiritist Awareness at 8 p.m. Beautiful segments telling you more about the Spiritist teachings.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.